Hello, folks, and welcome to Got Your Back post-game edition. Ryan Rishaug here in the Sherwood Park studios, just back fresh from the rink. Going to be joining Jason Strudwick in just a moment as well. Man, tough one for Oiler fan tonight. Feeling the sting of a lead that got away. Shorthanded goal against in the last minute. And then, And then a tough break in overtime with a frustrating call. Struddy and I are going to dive into all of it coming up here on the podcast. Want to remind you that Got Your Back is brought to you by Mr. Dirk, located just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Mr. Dirk is your one-stop shop for all your clothing needs, all of them. If you're a businessman needing to look sharp at your next meeting, or if you want to sharpen up your look around the office, they got a wide selection of great suits, shirts, ties, shoes, whatever you need. They'll help you make a statement that you're on top of your game. And if casual is what you're in need of, well, Mr. Dirk certainly has plenty of that as well. Jeans, pants, shirts, sweaters, belts, and shoes. Mr. Dirk is a great place for quality clothing of all types. We check in with the man. You would have watched him on the panel tonight. Jason Strudwick. Struddy, not much to talk about after that one. Hey, pal, how's Oiler Twitter looking right now?
Oh, it exploded. I haven't seen this kind of anger in quite a while. It's interesting to kind of see it. And, you know, the way the game started, I would not have expected this where we're sitting at this point. Hammering out this game.
Man, they let that one get away. Hey, boy, oh boy. We're gonna break it all down, and we're gonna get into all the different elements of it. So you know what? Let's just get right to it. It is time for the breakdown, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. They supply some of the nicest maintenance-free fencing and decking products out there. If you've got that wood fence or deck in your backyard and it's getting a little dicey and it's time for a change, give some thought to going maintenance-free. DLR Vinyl locations in both Calgary and in Edmonton as well. Okay, the disallowed goal. So we went into the locker room right after, and I remember before we went in, we were watching, you could see Connor McDavid just seething on the bench, hey, after that thing was called back. The broadcast had that shot. You could tell he was just seething Struds at the disallowed goal. And listen, we're going to get to the blown lead. We're going to get to the nurse mistakes and all those things, but really that's the talking point. So I'll put the ball in your court here. What did you see on this call after some frustration expressed by Connor McDavid? We'll hear from him in just a minute.
Yeah, I understand Connor's frustration. I'll use this platform again to say I do not like reviews. If you can't see in real time that the puck was not touched by Connor after he crossed the blue line, you have pretty high standards. You know, like we're getting down to the minutia here of watching things frame by frame. So I'll put that down. I get off that soapbox. When I look at it, Cale Makar is the one that people are using from last year in the playoffs, and I don't think that should have been considered onside. But if you go by this, the way they use it, that he had control of it the whole time, touched it outside, touched it inside, that's how he gets it. Connor did not touch the puck when he entered the zone. So if the standard was set with Makar, I have to agree with it. Even though I don't like it, I agree with it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and McDavid was definitely really frustrated with the whole thing post-game. I'm kind of watching it over and over here on the internet. I think a couple of different factors. Ryan O'Reilly was in the area, and his stick was in the area, kind of disrupting things a little bit. And so that wasn't the case with Makar. He had the clean entry. It was just a matter of whether or not his stick was on it or not. And there was a little bit of more granular detail there. But Ryan O'Reilly's stick is in the vicinity here. McDavid clearly crosses the line before the puck does. Does he have control or not? You know, he doesn't. He taps it over the line, and then he touches it, and that gives it the inertia to go over the line. Then his feet cross the line. And then Ryan O'Reilly's stick comes right through. And I'm watching this other reverse angle here. It doesn't look like O'Reilly gets as big a piece of it as I thought he did if he touches it at all. So I completely understand the frustration level. What is possession? What is not? You have to have it right on your stick to be considered possession. The league is, kind of ruled on that in the past. So I definitely understand the level of frustration. I'm not sure if this is comparable straight across to the Cale Makar one, though. Let's get to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here. And Connor McDavid I don't want to say heated, because he never really got heated, but This is Connor McDavid expressing frustration in a way that he doesn't really do. We haven't heard him do this before, at least very often that I can recall, Struds. Here he is post-game.
We kind of get burned on a call in the playoffs over a similar type of situation. You don't know if it's offside or onside, but the league's got to clarify some of these rules. What's a kick, what's offside, what's goalie interference. Kind of depends on the night, I guess. So disappointing, obviously. Obviously, we should never have even let it get to that point. So disappointing.
Did you feel like you were in control even though you preceded the puck? Is that what you're telling us?
Since I was a kid, I thought, if you have possession of the puck, it's onside. If I have possession or not, I guess that's the judgment call. So either way, I think players just want some clarity on some of these rules. We've been burned on a few kicks and stuff like that, and obviously Calgary had the situation last year in the playoffs. So, it kind of goes back a long way. Not understanding some of the rules of our own game. It's kind of funny, I guess.
So when your feet cross the blue line and the puck is not on your stick, I can understand why the league would feel like you don't have possession. You pulled up. Can you grab it, Struddy? The War Room's determination. We'll let people know exactly what the National Hockey League Situation Room, what their ruling was.
Here it is. So the explanation. Edmonton's Connor McDavid preceded the puck into the offensive zone without possession and control, and therefore was in an offside position prior to Draisaitl's goal. According to the rule 38.9, one of my favorites, the standard for overturning the call in the event of a goal call on the ice is that the NHL Situation Room, after reviewing any and all available replays and consulting with on-ice officials, determines that one or more players on the attacking team preceded the puck into the attacking zone prior to the goal being scored, and that, as a result, the play should have been stopped for an offside infraction. Where the standard is met, the goal will be disallowed. Clock was reset.
So there you go. Boy, we love these reviews, hey? Just taking goals away. I don't even care that it was the Oilers tonight. These offside reviews, I get it. For the really bad, the really obvious ones, I guess you're glad that it's there. If a Stanley Cup final goal is winning goal is scored on a play that's offside, are we all going to be okay living with that if we get rid of this review situation entirely? But there are times where it definitely is. It's kind of frustrating, and you feel like it takes goals away from the game that aren't necessarily all that necessary. So I definitely understand McDavid's frustration. By the letter of the law, I'm not sure the wrong call was made, but he doesn't do that very often. And hey, good for him. He's got a huge voice in this game, and if he feels there's inconsistency, use that voice. I have no problem with him being as vocal as he was tonight.
Yeah, that's his platform, right? He can use it, and when he says something like that, there will be attention. Heads will snap around at the league office. Now, I don't want to be that guy, but every team thinks they're getting screwed. That's just I played on 5 different NHL teams, and I can tell you all of them thought we got screwed on calls. Every single one. So this isn't happening just in Edmonton. There's a lot of people talking about the cross-check to McDavid or whatever. Over time, it's just the way it is. You have to find a way to persevere. Do I like the call? I don't like offside calls at all. So I guess I think the way I'm interpreting the rule, I think it's the right call. At the end of the day, though, Connor said it. Everyone said it should not have got to this situation. They did, and they lose. Probably didn't deserve to win.
Yeah. So following along here, kind of trying to manage comments on the live stream too, just so people know I'm kind of running this thing myself, doing all the technical stuff. So I got a lot going on here, but I've seen a couple comments come across that are like, talk about Nurse's mistakes. So yes, we're going to get to that. We just want to deal with the disallowed goal first and foremost. We'll go back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here because Darnell Nurse took a big flying leap onto the sword after the game tonight. We were in the locker room. I was in there like half hour ago. But a reminder that Weiss Johnson, it's a great time of year to look into a furnace for the garage. They got a great deal going until the end of January. No GST on all garage heater installations. And if you're a business owner, remember they provide a wide range of services, commercial rooftop unit replacements and servicing, as well as plumbing and HVAC tenant improvements. They'll set up a regular service and maintenance contract for you. Give them a shout. They'll come out and they will give you a quote. Okay, Darnell Nurse, multiple mistakes tonight. You and I are going to break them down. But first, to the Weiss Johnson sound box. Let's hear from Darnell Nurse.
Shouldn't be in that position. I turned the puck over there with 18 seconds seconds left or 20 seconds left. Like, that's unacceptable on my part, and let my teammates down tonight. So I shouldn't be in the position to be in OT like that. Play too many important minutes in situations like that to be making plays like that, and that's on me.
Yeah, that's on him. Listen, there's not much more he can say than that. We asked him a few more questions. He didn't really love them, but again, he owned it after the game. Let's break down the mistakes, Struddy, starting with the one that cost him late in the game. Jay Woodcroft on a power play decides to go with a more conservative approach. He goes with Ceci and Nurse on the power play rather than the 4-forward configuration. Can understand his thought process there. Darnell Nurse just with a tough play and an error there. What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to anticipate that he is anticipating the other team is going to pull their goalie as soon as it gets out of their end, right? So he wanted to have 2D out. Very reasonable. That is the right call. There's not even a gray area as far as whether you should have 2D out there. You do. No. You have 2D out there. You get the puck in Darnell Nurse, and I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to slide it underneath the stick and hit, I think it was Nuge on the far side. Came around and everything is perfect until he doesn't get it by. And, there's 30 seconds left in the game, whatever it is. It's, puck management. And I feel like this is something we discuss. I bring it up quite often, the puck management, situational management. I talked about the other night with I think it was Friday night about the Oilers trying to go for it in their own zone up 2-0 against Minnesota. I mean, there's got to be, understand where you're at. So can Darnell Nurse make that pass 9 times out of 10? Yes, he can. The 10th time, no, it ended up back in the net, right? And so maybe a rim is a simple play there. There was nobody around Nuge. Nobody. Nuge would have had time to get it, carry it across the blue line, maybe across the red line, and dump it in. So it's always that managing the game, managing what your plays are, and it kind of, just what's the path of least resistance in this situation? If that's the second period, go for it. Make that play. But you're protecting a 1-goal lead. You had a 2-goal lead. They became a 1-goal lead. Right after you got the 2-goal lead, they score again or a score to get it back. I just, and it's not just Darnell. Tonight, Darnell is wearing, the kind of that bad look of the 2 goals that he caused, but just the game management. It feels like we talk about this, Shogger, all the time about the decisions that are made and the tough lessons that are learned. Well, tonight was a very tough lesson. As soon as he made that play, I watched him as he went to the front of the net. I watched him as he wasn't beside the guy who shot the puck in the net. I watched him as he got up off the ground and skated to the bench. He was distraught.
Oh, yeah.
And there needs to be just an understanding of the moment. What moment are you in and what's the safe play? And I don't think the lessons have been learned just yet.
Yeah, and I think, the frustrating part, I think, for fans is that, Nurse is a very, very veteran player, and all players make mistakes, right? It happens. It wasn't the first one that he made on this night either. You go back to, I think, was it the first goal against where now that one was indecision. So he's pinned up, he's against the end boards there, and he's got the puck, and he's got a second to kind of think about things, and he didn't really do anything. Puck ends up getting stripped away, and it ends up in the back of the net. So 2 very different mistakes, but mistakes nonetheless from their big minute, $9+ million player. And that's always going to sting when you are Darnell Nurse and you have the responsibility and the salary and, the stature that he does. When you make 2 mistakes in a game like this, including one late like that, it's going to sting for sure. What did you think of the first one?
First one, you nailed it. It was indecision. Right. And he kind of froze. What's my play? What's my play? Oh, the other team took it, passed in front and goal. I actually thought in real time, I thought maybe he tried to go backhand up the middle. That's how quick it happened. And, that's when you're the last guy back or when you're the first guy to the puck, you have to make decisions quick before. And I say this all the time, before you arrive at the puck, you have to know what your play is. So, was he going to try to protect the puck and hold it? Couldn't do that. He had the puck far away. He had no body protection on that puck at all. Was he going to make a quick pass? He didn't know where the guys were. Like, those decisions need to be done before you arrive at the puck. If you don't do that, you're in trouble. And Darnell was in trouble. Right before he even got to the puck, he's in trouble because he didn't know what his play was. So, I mean, he is a veteran defenseman, and he's got to make better plays. And I'm going to put this forward. I believe that Darnell Nurse is overcomplicating his game of hockey. He's a very good skater. He's a physical specimen. But when he tries to do too much and overcomplicate the game, he gets himself in trouble. And I think, there was also play that it didn't result in anything bad, but I think the Oilers were, I want to say I think they just scored, the Blues had just scored, and he poked the puck and it just slightly went in front of the other guy in his own zone, and he tried to jump up into the play. Why are you jumping up in the play there, man? You're up by 1 goal. Stay back. Like, again, game management. But he's like a wild horse that just wants to run, and I get that. But those lessons need to be learned. You're protecting a 1-goal lead. You poke the puck up, let the forward get it. You stay between your man and the net, right? So, I mean, it's a bit of a pick on Darnell Nurse tonight, and I think he'll take a lot of heat over the next, till their next game. But those moments of overcomplicating the game, simplify your game, and that is where he's got to get his mindset at. And that's on Dave Manson also, to make him feel comfortable. Just play a simple game. Don't worry about the points. Simple game. Make the simplest play at the right time to manage the game.
Yeah, I think you make great points about him. He had a decent game. I think the Nashville game. He's had some good games this year, no question. And he's always going to be judged in a different way just because of the amount that he plays and the money that he makes and the contract and all that. And that's fair, right? And he understands that as well as anybody. I mean, he stood in there post-game and he answered those questions and took that level of accountability. But I think he does tend to complicate things quite a bit at times. And I agree with you in that his best game is more simple in nature. And I'm not sure if it's the pressure of living up to the deal or just wanting to try and contribute so badly because we know he's a good teammate and he's a leader on that team. I'm not sure what it's rooted in, but when he gets away from simplicity, he gets himself into trouble. And that can come from a good place too sometimes. It doesn't mean that, I think it's coming from a guy that cares a lot and wants to be a difference maker every single night, when really, if there's some nights where we're not talking about him at all, it's okay. Even at the salary he makes, that's okay. If we're not talking about Darnell Nurse post-game at all, that's probably a good thing on a lot of nights, Struds.
It is. And I've said at the beginning of the year, I felt that Darnell would be best for this group, he and Cece, if their job was to make life very uncomfortable for other teams' top line, be just hard defensive and physical. And I had a lot of people text me, they need more D, they need this. And, they do need to upgrade at D, but they have a guy right sitting here on their team that I believe needs to be more physical, harder defensively, and make the simple play. And simple play doesn't mean he's not skilled. That's not what I mean. But when you're playing those amount of minutes, and you have to understand where you're at in the game, what the score, who you playing with, who you playing against, how's the momentum of the game, all those things. And it was a tough night for him. There's no doubt about it. And he wears this one, but I think there's a different role, or a more decisive, or a clearer role for Darnell Nurse. And I believe it is a simpler game, because, he is the number one defenseman on this team, but he is not a number one defenseman. And I think that's a distinction that has to be made. There are not a ton of number one defensemen in this league, and Darnell is not a true number one. And that's not being mean. There's very few, in my opinion, the guys that I count on, they're not true number one. So he's a number two defenseman, then it kind of works its way down from there on the Oilers' back end.
But he's being paid like a number one. And I think that's where fans probably have that expectation of him.
For sure.
Right? That he perform like other number ones around the league. But I mean, the Oilers knew his game really well when they decided to give him that contract, and there are other factors involved. They weren't in any position to let Darnell Nurse walk away, and the contract is what it is. Okay, we are going to get to some fan comments. That's going to be in our next takeaway segment. I know you're going to take a look at our Twitter feed there.
I've got some winners.
Pull some of those off of there. So we'll get ready to do that in a couple of minutes. We appreciate the comments that are coming in here. I want to talk about a couple of other things here. So Philip Broberg tonight. An error there for sure. Plays 8 minutes and 17 seconds. Nurse ends up having to play, where is he? 29:03. Cece 26:27. 20 minutes and 35 seconds at even strength for Cody Cece. Like, they need They need more guys to play a bigger part on that blue line and take some of the load off. I mean, I think Nurse is playing too much here is probably what I'm trying to get around to saying here. They've taken Ryan Murray just completely out of the rotation here. Like, they have no option. Trying to put him back in after this long out. I think Broberg has had some really good looks in some really good games. But at the same time, 8 minutes and 17 seconds, and you see the minutes the other guys had to carry. What do you think, Struddy? Is it okay to have an 8-minute defenseman on this unit?
Well, first off, Ryan Murray can jump back in. That's what he's paid for. He's paid to be. I was that guy. I went 10 games. I think one time, a whole month. I thought Tom Gilmert ruined my career, and I got back in there at one point. So you can go. You can get. That's the job. That's the job. You're like you don't know what's going to happen. You can get back. So he put him in tomorrow, or whenever they play Saturday, no problem. He can do it. Broberg, this was his weakest game I've seen him play. I thought he was indecisive, backing off. He made an errant pass that was, in front of his net, cross ice, like just high risk. That's not the way to garner trust from your coach. But there's a lot of things I like about Broberg's game. So if you want to pull him out for a game and put Murray in there, I would 100% support it. If it was a young guy, they were sitting like Niemelainen hadn't played, let's say, for 10 games, you're going to put him in. I'm not sure it'd be the same, but Murray, he can handle it. But yeah, an off. I thought, the off night for sure for those two, Nurse and Broberg. The ice time, they've got to get, Barry some more time. They've got to get Kulak, although he was out there quite a bit. They got to find a way to get more ice time into more players' hands on the back end. And quite frankly, I think up front as well. But that's not the conversation we want to have right now.
Yeah, Oilers let a point slip away here. Nice comeback by the St. Louis Blues, boy, to do that on the road and then grab it in the shootout. How about that move by Kyrou, the little stall and then top shelf? Both and Skinner seemed to be upstairs tonight, hey?
Yeah, although I thought Skinner had a really good game. Gave his guys a chance.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
But the other team's good too, right? Both teams are good, and they're trying to make that. But Skinner more than gave his team a chance to win. And quite frankly, I thought Binghamton on the other end, the old Binner, that save on what was it, Yamamoto and Nuge?
Yeah, right in close
back to
there.
back. Was it Yamamoto?
Would that have made it a 3-goal game? I'm just going to check my notes here. I'll have it in here. Binnington, huge saves. That was at 3-2. That was at 3-2 that he made those saves, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So I thought both goalies played well. I want to be very clear though. The Oilers let this one get away from them.
Oh yeah.
They let, it was not the refereeing. It wasn't the offside call. It was the Oilers' lack of game, just situational awareness that they let this one get away. And it's early in the year, but I mean, take those 2 points from St. Louis, it pushed them down a big chunk. And now instead they gained 1 point on you. So, I just figured I'll get back to work on Saturday.
All right, good stuff. That was a breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. We're going to move straight into our next segment now. And, of course, that is Takeaways, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC, the big giant dealership just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park, the #1 GMC dealership in all of Canada for 5 years running. Have you seen the all-new redesigned Sierra 1500? I have one. The elevation trim, it's fantastic. The Denali Ultimate is awesome as well. Sherwood Buick GMC has inventory too. A lot of places are struggling with that right now. They can actually get their hands on vehicles and trucks for you. So check out Sherwood Buick GMC. Okay, let's just kind of take turns here. We're going to dive into the Twitter feed. I'll try and grab a couple off the live stream here. But let's we put it out there to grab some of your thoughts post-game. Struddy, I know you've got the comments up there. Throw one out there and we can discuss.
Yeah, I got this one from Peter, 186. I'm guessing that's how much he can bench press, judging by his picture. This is it. Nurse can dive on the sword all he wants. At the end of the day, he needs to be better. He's supposed to be a #1 D-man. Nurse fought the puck all night, yet still played almost 30 minutes. When does he get benched, or does his $9.25 million contract exempt him from that?
Really interesting conversation here about accountability, because and I'm getting a lot of that too on the feed. It's like people say, if Broberg did that, he would have been benched. Broberg did that, and he did get benched. So there's different layers of accountability for different players. And I think people maybe wonder, is that fair? Is that the way it should be? I'll let you answer this as a veteran NHL defenseman, Struddy, but my initial thought is, yes, that's the way it is. Yes, that's the way it should be. It's the way it always has been. It's the way it's always going to be. It's just the laws of nature.
100%. As a veteran, you've earned the right to he's gone through, like, Nurse has probably been benched before, right? He's been through those situations, and he's one of the leaders on your team, and he is counted on to play those tight minutes. It doesn't mean that, you can't talk to him about making these mistakes and how he can adjust it and all that, but it's rare that you can see a veteran get benched. I think we saw Scheifele get benched, I want to say last year or 2 years ago, by Paul Maurice after some poor play.
Yeah.
But it is a pretty significant moment to make that happen. So, I get, what I love about the fans is the anger, right? And they're always comparing, well, Bouchard got suspended. Yeah, he's learning how to be a defenseman, right? And, even tonight we can make the case that he was a little soft on one of the goals. So, did he get benched right away after, or is it a one-time thing? So I think you have to understand it is the way it is that veterans have more, not freedom, but more give. There's more give in the coach's relationship with them as far as mistakes they make than young players. That's just the way it is, and the way it probably will be for a while.
Back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. Here's Jay Woodcroft. Now, it was interesting post-game because Woodcroft, in his answer about the overtime goal that was called back, he answered his thoughts on that, and then you're going to hear the second half of his answer. The second half of his answer was when he transitioned into, it should never have gotten to that point. In this answer, he addresses the mistake that Nurse made, but he doesn't use his name. He says, we made a mistake that we wouldn't normally make. Now, you're not going to hear me follow up. I asked specifically about the two mistakes Nurse made and Jay's thoughts on that, and he basically said, we win as a team, we lose as a team. Mark Spector followed up with another question about Darnell Nurse. He said, we win as a team, we lose as a team. My point here is, asked specifically about Darnell Nurse, he won't answer the question. He says, we win as a team, we lose as a team. But that doesn't mean he won't talk about his mistakes, because when you listen to this answer, you know exactly what he's talking about.
We were careless with the puck with 30 seconds left in a game, and that usually doesn't happen for us, and it did tonight, and we put ourselves in position to not win the game in overtime.
So we normally don't make that mistake. I mean, we know that he's talking about Darnell Nurse. So, I mean, this is a coach wanting to be careful about singling a player out, but he is talking about the specific mistake that he made. Would you prefer if he were more direct and answered direct questions about Nurse's play specifically, or do you think he's doing the right thing by not answering questions specifically about Nurse's play?
Oh, I think anyone who watched the game would understand who he's talking about. They can interpret it. Do you want to use a name? You can use a name. Darnell, whatever. Everyone knows who he's talking about. This isn't like a thing where some of our guys weren't going tonight, right? You hear that one all the time. Some of our players weren't going tonight. When he says we were careless with the puck with 30 seconds left, we know exactly who we is. And it ain't him. It's this guy. So, but fans are going to get worked up about that. And some members of the media, well, he didn't answer. He didn't criticize Darnell. Oh, he criticized him. All right. He criticized him. Everyone knows who he's talking about. And, I like how he talked about, I think he said, to use the words, we were careless in that moment. And I just look at that play, and not to pile on again, that needs to be a hard, decisive play in that moment. So if you decide you're going to just rim it around and gets by Nuge and it goes all the way down to an icing, it was a decisive play, but soft as maybe, but a fancy, skilled play in that moment, that's not the play. And I would have liked to have heard Jay said, if you really want to get critical, we've got to be better at managing situations, understanding the situation. And I think that is a more, that would have been a very critical thing to say in that moment.
We'll go to Michael Bruni here on the Weiss Johnson Twitter mentions. I'd like to hear Jason Strudwick on how often Nurse is down in the crease, how many goals go in while Nurse is trying to play goalie. Struddy, your thoughts there?
Yeah, I don't like players going down. I think once you leave your feet, if you don't get contact with the puck, you're you're just a bench, right? You're just laying there. It's not. So I personally don't believe in doing that. Maybe 5-on-3, maybe as they're trying to throw it across the crease, you get down and you knock it down. I can maybe see it there, but I don't like players going down. Now, there's other coaches that love it. I know the New Jersey Devils for a long time, that was their thing. We lay down, we make them make a hard play. I get it, but it's not for me. I don't believe in it. So it's philosophical. Obviously, the coaches don't have a problem with it because he's doing it. Maybe that's part of the way they want to play it. But no, I'm not a fan of it at all. I just don't. I think once you leave your feet and you're on your tummy, you're not going anywhere.
To Justice Burger, I guess, he says, some of these handles kill me on Twitter here. It's upsetting to see Skinner play such a great hockey game and his team play poor D at such easy closeout times. His win-loss record doesn't reflect his play. If he had a better record, there would be way more Calder talk for him. He deserves better in those moments. Bit of a thrown-away game by Stuart Skinner, hey? Like the team let pretty good performance from their 10 that got thrown away.
Played absolutely great. I can tell you, though, I don't care about the Calder at all. To me, that doesn't – this team isn't – they're not here to put people into Calder trophy positions. Yep. I just – what did I say? Cup? Yep. Yeah. To me, it is the last thing on my mind. It does not – I don't care about that at all. What I do care about is he improving? Is he getting development? Yes, 100%. He helped them get a point. Unfortunately, it's not a win. It should have been a win tonight. But he's right. I mean, he played really well. Skinner played really well, and it dropped off. I want to get to this one from Tommy. Can't remember the last time I've seen Nurse play physical and be tough to play against. And you know what? Thomas Rotundo, I would agree with you, man. I really think that this is a situation, and I said it before the season started. He and CC have to be hard to play against, physical to play against, and make it life very uncomfortable for the other group. And I'd like to see some of that edge come back. I want to see some of that stick work without the puck come back. I want to see some of that physicality come back to both of them, to both their games. And this just is in a tonight thing. This is how many games have they played? Shogger 30, whatever it is, whatever we're at here. This is this part of the season so far. And I really like to see that from this group, because if these two guys start doing it, it changes the complexion, the look of this Oilers defenseman. Because right now everyone's crying out for a hard Adam Larson type defenseman. I think these two guys can be that. But they're not doing it right now. And I think that's a mistake by them and the team not pushing in that direction.
Anything else you want to get to there? Any other good ones on your list?
Well, there's lots of them. I can still say. No, those are my top ones. Tommy and Peter.
Okay,
Petro.
Tommy and Peter, good ones. Fitting he dove on it, considering all the time he spends lying down on the ice. That was to my tweet saying he dove on his sword. Dan Tenser chiming in on this one, actually.
Oh, DT.
Yeah, old buddy Dan Tenser. When a guy's having a real tough night, it's made even tougher when the coach has limited options, personnel. And maybe that circles back to the point I was making about Broberg and the number of minutes that he played. Like, maybe ideally when you feel like a guy like Nurse isn't really feeling it, you'd be able to back off of him a little bit, funnel some more minutes onto some other guys. If you have a little more depth and reliability there, maybe you insulate him from that. You definitely don't want to overplay him on a night where he's not feeling it. I think that's a decent point by Dan.
Yeah. Well, let's keep in mind that Brett Kulak was traded for towards the end of the year last year, right? And that rounded out their depth. I was having a text exchange with a good buddy of mine, and he is mad. Mad. They got to trade for a D right now. They're going to end up trading for whatever, Fowler or Klimber. Like, you just know the tone. And I'm like, take a deep breath, man. Kulak came in later in the year last year. And he fit in seamlessly, right? So this team, they're still missing, and I'm not making excuses, but they're still missing some of their top 9 forwards here. I do not believe this D is a finished product. It is not a finished product. But you just got to take a deep breath. And tonight it's easy because everyone's fired up about Darnell Nurse and this and that. Can Darnell tweak his game? Yes, I do believe, but we've been pretty consistent in that all year. So that's just deep breath. Beat the wheels off of Anaheim on Saturday and go visit Nashville, where Draisaitl will get probably 5 points again. Keep up his average.
Good stuff, Struddy. By the way, let's quickly address the Anaheim Puljujarvi trade stuff. That's been lots of that over the last couple of days. I just want to weigh in here on the likelihood that there's a deal to be had there. This is my thought process. Anaheim's in a legit rebuild. They're not, they want to add the right pieces. They're looking down the road to the future. They just passed on a real good player on waivers out of Nashville. A lot of teams passed on him. He ended up getting picked up, but a year younger, cheaper on the cap. If you're looking for a guy that maybe does a little better in his second location, that would have been a guy to pick up. I think what people need to understand with Puljujarvi is the Oilers very much are dealing in a negative equity situation here. This is not, what kind of a pick are you going to get in exchange for him? You got to move a pick with him to get another team to take him. And I think it's not an ideal situation that they're in, Struddy, but I just think that's when you look at the point production and you look at the salary, you're going to have to package a pick with him to get a team to take him. And maybe that's what Anaheim is considering in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and that's fair, but I'm more concerned about the return. Like Klingberg, no. Shattenkirk, no. And Fowler, no. They do not answer or check any of the boxes that I'm looking for in a defenseman. And to be fair, I don't think that the way that they're being run or coached right now is really helpful to any of them. I think Klingberg's better than he's shown. I don't think his game just dropped off like that. But I don't think those guys, any of them check. So, we can talk about Puljujarvi getting traded to Anaheim and, maybe there's a forward, I don't know, but it's the return, man. And you've got to find someone who fits the bill and checks a box on this team. And I don't believe any of those three D-men do. You might feel differently, but I do not see a fit for any of those three guys.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not, I think your list and my list for what the Oilers need to add on their blue line is probably fairly similar, which won't make for great debate, but I think it's a player that needs to be rooted in defensive play first and foremost. I think he needs to shoot left because the Oilers have three guys on the right that they want to play. I think he needs to be a guy that can push Kulak down into the third pairing and insulate them. And I think it needs to be a guy that's bigger and plays a bit more of a robust game. So you didn't mention a guy like that when you just ran down those names right there, right? You've got, Gavrikov potentially as a rental. The other thing is I don't think they necessarily want to do a rental either. I think they, would like to try and maybe do a hockey deal, someone that has some contract if it's a decent contract as well. So that's why we brought up Edmondson from Montreal. He, fits a lot of those criteria. A lot of debate at Oiler fans, whether they feel like he's the right guy or not. But just a player rooted in defensive play, I think, would be at the top of the priority list, wouldn't you?
Yeah, stout. I like to use the word stout in beer, and the way that the Oilers need to add a defenseman. They need someone who's stout, a stout defender, and those guys aren't that. They have those guys. You know what? They have three of them on their lineup right now. 3, 4, maybe 4. They don't need that. They need a hard defender. They need Adam Larson is what they need. They need a left-handed Adam Larson. So if anyone knows where there's one, that's the guy they have to get. So that's just fact. Figure it out. And I agree with you. Puljujarvi right now, he's not getting a D-man straight up.
Yeah. No. And I don't think this talk with Anaheim was necessarily rooted in potentially a trade for a defenseman. I think they're a team that has the cap space to take Puljujarvi. Yeah. And so they're taking a look at him to see what the player has and figuring out, okay, what are you giving us to take him at that salary? I think that's probably, they're a team that can fit him in.
They're watching the game today. He had a slot shot today, right in the slot, walking off on the strong side, and literally just put it right into the pad, like not even the pads, just on the ice into the stick of Binnington. And I was like, that is a guy with zero confidence. Yeah, zero confidence.
All right, good stuff, Struddy. How'd you like the live stream? A little different, eh? I didn't mind it.
Love it. No, I love it. I love going live, buddy.
Sorry if I wasn't able to get to as many comments, people that were commenting as we were up live. It's just a little hard because I'm trying to control it and look down and all that. But really appreciate some participation on Twitter from the good folks that listen to the podcast. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for tuning in to the live stream or the podcast if you're listening after the fact or the next day. Big thanks to our sponsors, Mr. Dirk Sherwood Buick GMC DLR Vinyl Products, and of course our good friends at Weiss Johnson as well. Tough night for Oiler fan. They did still grab a point, but a bit of a kick in the pills for everybody. That's the way she goes. They get to go right back at it again in a couple of days. Who is it, Struds?
Ducks, 2 o'clock Saturday.
Yeah, oh yeah, love the Saturday afternoon
Be
start.
there.
Absolutely love it. Good stuff, Struddy. Thanks, my friend. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll touch base again real soon. Probably a short shift coming up on the weekend. And probably a podcast with Pierre Lebrun and friends tomorrow covering a little bit more around the National Hockey League. So keep an eye on our feed for that as well. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. Cheers, folks.